So sorry, it was my internet. I was saying hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So this evening it's a pleasure to have you as the main speaker who will be more exploring and helping the community and the people in general to have the answers regarding different global health questions.
Yes.
So it's a pleasure meeting you. Feel free and you're welcome.
Thank you so much.
So before I start asking, yes, sure. Before I start asking you different questions, you
Mm-hmm.
can take 1 minute and you introduce yourself to the audience. Then I'll go ahead and ask you different questions as you address them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Joyce Umuhire, and I am Southern New Hampshire University student. I'll be taking healthcare management in global perspectives, and I work at the COT Museum. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Interesting. Thank you. Without wasting our time, here is the first question, Mrs. Joyce.
Yes.
Global health seems to be in the news more and more in recent years. Talk about what global health is and why it is important to pay attention to.
Thank you so much. That's a great question. First of all, when we say health, we mean being completely away from any disease. Physically, mentally, socially, you are free and you feel you're healthy. So, when we say global health, we mean an area of study, research, and practice that put a priority of people and achieve the equity of health in people. And example I can give is the WHO, World Health Organization, and CDC, which is Center of Disease and Culture Prevention. So why is it important? It's very important to have global health because, as we know, when we say global health, we mean like an extent issue. It can be HIV, it can be Ebola, it can be coronavirus. So it's very important for people to know about global health so as to prevent themselves from being affected by the disease and make more research about the global health issues. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mrs. Joyce.
You're welcome.
Here is the second question. Disease can come to us in different ways and explain the difference between communicable and non-communicable disease.
Mm, thank you so much. So we have two different types of diseases, like you said. So when we say communicable disease, we mean these diseases that are spread through contamination. It can be Ebola, it can be chickenpox, it can be coronavirus. You just have that disease when you contact with an infected person. But when we say non-communicable diseases, we mean those diseases that are chronic. For instance, lung cancer. It's not something you can get when you contact with a person. Heart attack, uh, there are some diseases that do not require a person to have any contact with any other person for them to have those diseases. So, such those are what we call non-communicable diseases. Thank you.
Yes, are you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. So thank you very much for the great answers. I'm enjoying your answers. This is the third question. Let's talk about Ebola.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, since I'm sure most of our viewers have heard a lot about what is it? Is it a communicable or a non-communicable? How do people get it?
Uh, Thank you so much. First of all, Ebola is a deadly disease. It kills a lot of people, but it's a communicable disease. It is a disease you get when you contact with any other person who has Ebola through fluids, blood, semen. There are so different things that can make you get that disease. According to CDC, mostly it is good when you contact with a person who is already infected with Ebola. When you touch your nose, mouth, and you have the germs or any fluid that has any contact with that person who has Ebola. Thank you.
Excuse me, the last part that you said on how a person can get Ebola, we didn't get it well due to internet issues. Would you mind if you repeat it? How a person can get Ebola?
Yes, uh, I guess it's an internet issue, but I wanted to mean that a
Sure.
person can get Ebola if he has any contact with an infected person. If he touches them or come across with any fluid or blood, or when you have sex with an infected person, you're likely to have Ebola if that is unprotected. Uh, it can be through fluids and any germs when you touch your nose, your mouth, any kind of something that's going to get contaminated that person, you're likely to get that disease. Thank you.
Sure. So then, is it a communicable or a non-communicable disease?
Yeah, I told you before, it's a deadly disease and it's communicable because you get it by when you contact the person who is already
Wow.
infected.
Sure.
Mm.
I hadn't had it. Thank you.
Because of the internet, maybe.
So the following question. I'm so
Mm.
sorry. There are more questions.
Mm.
Uh, so, what would raise a person's risk of getting Ebola?
Okay, thank you so much. People mostly who are at risk of getting Ebola are those who are going to be in contact with people who are infected.
Did you hear me?
Yes, I heard you. Hello?
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Are you getting me right now?
Yeah, I'm getting you
Okay.
somehow.
Yeah, I'm sorry the internet issue, but I hope you understand me. So I was answering your question
Sure.
that people who are at risk of getting Ebola are those who are in contact with people who are already infected. For instance, people working at the hospital taking care of Ebola patients, family members having an Ebola person in the family, or any other person who is likely to have any contact with Ebola person through fluids, blood, like I said, is at risk of having Ebola. Thank you.
Okay. Then, so to prevent or at least lessen the chances of getting Ebola, what should people do?
Yes, it's very simple. If you know you have,
Then, should people do?
yes, yes, I get you. So I was saying that, first of all, you shouldn't
Mm,
have any contact with an infected person. You shouldn't have any mean
yes.
to maybe come across their fluid, or if that person is having sex with you, you have to use a protected sex. Moreover, you have to avoid contact with items that has any contact with an infected person. Thirdly, avoid some funeral or burial of the person who has been infected by Ebola because you might get affected there. So, in summary, stay away from any infected person as long as you know before they get treated because it is a communicable, deadly disease you can get infected. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Here is another question which says outbreaks such as the one related to Ebola can generate a lot of rumors and misinformation and even panic about the disease. How is it transmitted and how likely people are to get it? Talk about the need for educating people about the facts versus myths.
Thank
Myths.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So, as we know, when there is any outbreak in a country or in the world, there is likely to be rumors or some social media. People are going to exaggerate things. So, for us, for a country or for any other person to know the truth, it has to differentiate between a myth and a fact. So, a myth is just something that does not have a fact. It's like an imaginary story or a fairy tale, something people imagine or believe in their head that doesn't have any truth. So the fact is something that has the truth and people know it's approved. So there is a need to educate people about the difference between a myth and a fact because it's going to help them to reduce the panic or to know the truth about any outbreak and reduce any panic or any circumstances or some consequences that may lead to death or heart attack and others. So it's very important to educate them the difference between those two. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Here is another question.
Yes.
So, how about the complications that Ebola raises for the rights of travelers and the responsibilities of governments? Kachi Hickox, for example, a nurse from Maine
Mm-hmm.
who returned to the States following a trip to West Africa in the fall of promptly had quarantine-related restrictions thrust upon her, restrictions that she was very much against. Briefly, describe the difficulty of balancing individual rights and government responsibility.
Thank you very much. That is a good question. It is very difficult in for a country and the citizen in when we have an outbreak like Ebola and coronavirus. Let's take an example of Ebola. It's really difficult to balance the rights of people and the government responsibilities. But first of all, we have to know that life comes first. You cannot have the rights when you don't have life first. That's why the government has to make sure it sets some boundaries, responsibilities that are going to keep people away from any outbreak for them to keep those rights. So although it is very difficult, the government has to make sure it sensitizes about education about any outbreak, the prevention, the causes, so as to make people prevent themselves. Otherwise, you cannot balance the rights of people to the government responsibilities because life comes first and then rights comes later. So I guess that's all they have to do. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. And so let's talk about smoking and tobacco use,
Yes.
which is considered as a big world health problem and raises similar issues to Ebola in terms of rights and responsibilities. Just about everyone knows that smoking harms health. What does it do to the body?
Thank you so much. That's a very nice question. When we say smoking, we mean the inhaling and exhaling of fumes of burning chemical plants. So people inhale, they can
Yeah.
use pipes, they can use cigarettes. There are different types of ways people can use while smoking. So smoking is something really dangerous to our body because it affects our lungs and air sacs and leads us to some diseases like lung cancer, respiratory diseases, and it is very harmful. Thank you.
Okay. What about secondhand smoke? Explain what is it and how it affects people.
Thank you. In smoking, we have two types. You have active smoking and passive smoking. Active smoking is just smoking directly and inhaling and exhaling the fumes. And then when we say exhaling, I mean passive smoking. This is a type of smoking where a person smokes indirectly. If a person is sitting near me and I'm smoking, the air, I mean the smoke goes to him or him, and it's very harmful. So how does it affect a person? The more
Okay.
you stay near or the more you inhale those fumes, they go and affect the respiratory organ,
Sure.
affect the
And
ear
how does it
infection.
affect people?
Yes, it affects the ear and can cause infection. It leads to infant death and children. And people don't know it's really dangerous because they don't see the value. I mean, they don't see the dangers of smoking passively, but it's really dangerous. So mainly it affects the respiratory organs and it can cause death. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. And here comes the last questions and states people don't typically think of tobacco as a drug like heroin or cocaine, but the addiction it creates is strong, isn't it? Should we think of tobacco use as a form of substance abuse?
Mm. Thank you so much. First of all, the answer is yes. We should take the tobacco as a substance abuse. So when we say substance abuse, we mean a pattern of harmful use of any substance for mood altering, like smoking, alcohol, any kind of pattern that is really harmful, but is something you do for mood, for pleasure. So, according to CDC, 80 to 90% of adults who smoke began during adolescence, which is a fact that shows people who has been smoking have been smoking from their adolescence, and it is very addictive.
So,
Smoking is a
excuse
very
me, I
addictive.
have difficulties in getting you.
You're not listening to me? Okay, yes, I can repeat again.
I had difficulties in getting you due to internet issues. Maybe you can start over the last question.
Okay, thank you. So I was
Should I
like,
repeat it?
no, 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 I got it. I was answering that
Sure.
yes. I was answering yes. Uh, Smoking is addictive, and its addiction is very strong. So I would start explaining what substance abuse is. Substance abuse means the pattern of harmful use of any substance for mood altering purposes, like smoking and alcohol. So it is a substance abuse because people start smoking, like according to CDC, 80 to 90% of adults who smoke today began smoking when they were adolescents. This is a fact that shows that smoking is addictive. And every year in USA, 1.4 million people and children younger than 18 start smoking at the age of 18. So this is a harmful thing for mood altering purposes, and it is very addictive and very dangerous. So the answer, as I said, it's a yes, it's true. It is absence abuse.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much. This marks the end of our questions, and we really appreciate your time that you've taken to address these questions that I was having and the community at large. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you too. Have a nice day. Thank you.